time when I was married.
Real impatient, isn't he?
Dicky do.
We'll go ahead and, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Call this meeting to order. Rise for invocation, please.
Our Heavenly Father, tonight as we begin this meeting, we want to acknowledge two losses. One loss was our prayers and our thoughts are to Dennis Aloya and his wife for the loss of their mother-in-law that recently happened within the last several days. Dennis, our prayers and thoughts are with you. Second, our prayers and thoughts are with the family of Nick Cooper, the individual that had a swimming accident here recently in our county. We pray for Nick and his family as they go through the loss of their son. Lord, also give us the guidance and wisdom as we go through tonight's agenda so we may make the best decision possible for those citizens that we represent. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fleece.
Present.
Friend. Here. Hooper.
Here.
Inman.
Here.
Max Bauer. Richardson.
Excused. Here.
Cooney wants us to.
Stepska.
Here.
Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Thomas.
Here. Okay, the first item on our agenda is the first public comment. Would you read the rules, please?
Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provisions of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. 1. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. 2. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may at his or her discretion extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
Having heard that, who'd like to speak? Can you do it in 3 minutes?
Absolutely. I can do it in 30 seconds. But I want to ask you about the rules, because I think the rules say I may identify myself, but I would like to identify myself. My name is Norbert Tutlis. I live at 4565 Buckhorn Drive. I'm here partially tonight to see if any of the commissioners read all 16 of the reasons why not to remove the dams. Okay, I didn't think so. Anyone have any questions about the... Okay. I think this is just input, and certainly my heart goes out to Dennis and his loss. Why can't we celebrate births also in our invocations? I think it would be a good idea. I come here for a couple of reasons, and the first reason that I came was to see if we're going to have any movement on a request I made for a motion to amend a motion that was made to remove the dams. In doing a little research, I'm uncomfortable with the implementation team and whether they comply with the bylaws of the Charter Township of Garfield as far as how they were appointed, how they were vetted if there was an ad hoc committee that screened them. I think someone may want to look into that because I don't believe that as a special committee they're not on the webpage. They are representing the county. They're speaking on behalf of the Grand Vision, which they have no authority for. And I believe maybe they're outstepping the bounds that they were originally intended to do, I think, when they were empowered. And I'm not sure where the power that they're operating under came from, but they certainly have taken it. I want to just use my last minute and a half to make you aware of something that really concerns me, and it should concern all of you, and that's in dealing with Lansing. There's a group of people over near Vanderbilt called the Song of the Morning Ranch, and they had a dam there, and they had a spill. They faced criminal and civil charges. The manager was charged criminally, cited, and got a 6-month suspended sentence. He now has a criminal record. He wasn't even on site when the spill took place. He was off site. The alarms had been going off. They didn't listen to him. They just stopped listening to them like anyone would after a while. They had a greater inflow than outflow. The dam didn't do anything wrong, but the person, not the person charged, the person left in charge ignored it because it was neutralizing. The inflow was equaling the outflow. By the time the pond got drained down, the sediment had mitigated. They closed the gate. It was too late. Fish died. Fortunately, no people died. But the Michigan DNR and Trout Unlimited as plaintiffs took this group of people to court. They got a $150,000 judgment that they have to pay off, $15,000 a year for 10 years. They have to design the removal of the dam. They have to remove the dam. They have to restore the river, and I think Trout Unlimited, why they entered into it is they will be paid as consultants to tell them how the natural river should be so it can be a nice fishery again. Folks, that's who you're dealing with. DNR are not your friends. They came here with their checkbooks to remove the dams. If you look at the Record Eagle article from April when you made the decision to remove the dams, the band had just applied, and he stood up and back and he waved his application. We've just applied for a $7.5 million grant from NOAA. And if it comes through, we're going to put it for dam removal. If you read it, $2.94 million of that was for a research station at the Weir. We don't need that. The state would like to have it. Need to dig a little bit deeper, and hopefully over the weekend you'll take the time to read the 16 reasons why to remove it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I'll close public comment, and we will approve the agenda. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'll approve the agenda as presented. Support?
Been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Special order of business. First, a public hearing on the Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. Who's going to do that?
Well, I think if this is a grant for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant for the Sheriff's Department. They propose to use the funding towards the purchase of radar equipment, portable breath test equipment, and computer tracking and locating equipment. Under the terms of the grant, the county's required to hold a public hearing, and so now would be the time to open the public hearing and take any public comment.
Yeah, and I'll now open a public hearing. Anybody want to speak to the subject? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Next is a presentation to Jason Jones. You will make sure that he gets that?
Yep, he's here. He is here. We'll make sure that Jason gets this from the state regarding his recent award through the Michigan Parks and Recreation Association.
Thank you. Next is,
Just one more thing. I would like to congratulate Jason on the start of the baseball season. I heard it went off fairly well. A few glitches, but that were worked out, and everything worked out fine from what I understand. So I'd just like to congratulate him on that.
good. Anybody got anything else to say? All right. Hey, we are going to set a record. Consent calendar. Would you read it, please?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. Receive and file. 1, resolution in support of efforts to stop Asian carp migration into the Great Lakes, Livingston and Oceana counties. 2, resolution to call for the modification of State Act 312 of 1969, Lake and St. Joseph counties. 3, Northern Michigan Substance Abuse Services, minutes of March 1st, 2010. 4, Conservation Resource Alliance, Boardman River Dams Implementation Team, minutes of March 18th, 2010. 5, Board of Public Works, minutes of March 22nd, 2010. 6, Northwestern Regional Airport Commission, minutes of March 23rd, 2010. 7, Road Commission, minutes of March 24th, 2010. 8, G5 Subcommittee, minutes of March 28th, 2010. 9, Area Agency on Aging of Northwest Michigan, minutes of April 1st, 2010. 10, Resource Recovery Council, minutes of April 1st, 2010. 11, Sewer and Water Committee, minutes of April 8th, 2010. 12, Septic Finance Subcommittee, minutes of April 9th, 2010. 13, Conservation District minutes of April 12th, 2010. 14, Conservation Resource Alliance Boardman River Dams Implementation Team minutes of April 15th, 2010. 15, G5 Subcommittee minutes of April 19th, 2010. 16, Planning Commission minutes of April 20th, 2010. 17, Public Health and Safety Committee draft minutes of May 5th, 2010. 18, Resource Management Administration Committee draft minutes of May 12th, 2010. 19, Ways and Means Committee draft minutes of May 19th, 2010. 20, Ad Hoc Committee draft minutes of May 19th, 2010. Commission on Aging and Parks and Recreation interviews. 21, correspondence regarding injection well, Bayfield Township. Referrals, 22, EDC update dated May 19th, refer to Ways and Means. Approvals, 23, Board of Commissioners regular minutes of April 28th, 2010. Public Health and Safety Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. 24, amendment to the 2009-2010 Victim Rights Agreement. 25, fiscal year 2011 Cooperative Reimbursement Program application, Prosecuting Attorney's Office. 26, Traverse Narcotics Team TNT Forfeiture Funds acceptance. 27, Exchange Club Foundation of Traverse City Grant Award acceptance. 28, TB Services Agreement with Northwest Michigan Health Services, Inc. 29, Contract with Networks LLC Health Department. 30, 2009 Medical Examiner's Report. 31, Detective Bureau laptops. 32, Traverse Bay Children's Advocacy Center support. 33, Vehicle Maintenance and Oil Change Agreements. 34, Endowment Grant Acceptance, Commission on Aging. 35, Vendor Agreement, Commission on Aging Transportation Services. 36, Vendor Agreement, Commission on Aging In-Home and Yard Maintenance Wait List Vouchers Services. Resource Management Administration Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. 37, Mishta Housing Grant. 38, Grand Traverse County Fair Housing Resolution. 39, Twin Lakes Access to Recreation, Change Order Number 3. 40, Support for Statutory Amendment to the Board of Public Works Act. Ways and Means Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. 41, approval to purchase promotion products, The Place. 42, Burn Justice Assistance Grant, application and acceptance by Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office. 43, budget adjustments. Interview Subcommittee recommends approval of the following resolution. 44, appointments to the Commission on Aging and Parks and Recreation Commission.
Having heard the consent calendar, is there anybody in the public would like anything withdrawn for consideration at a later time? If not, the commission? Sonny?
Item number 39, please.
Okay. Ross?
Number 40.
Okay. Is there anyone else?
44.
44? Is that it? I would like to say that number 21, the correspondence regarding the injection well, we got a lot of letters in support of denial. And you all have them, but I wanted everybody to know that the people up there are pretty upset. So, with that, we have a motion to...
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item number 39, 40, and 44.
Is there support?
Support.
By roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Stepka?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes. By the way, I'm just going to mention this. I was listening to the city commission the other night, and I think I found the problem with these microphones. They hear papers rattling really good. So maybe we should, they're not directional enough, so tip them up a little bit. Because that's all I could hear, is somebody would be speaking out here and all you could hear is the papers, and, you know, and it is annoying. Anyway, speaking of annoying, administrator's report.
Jeez. What a guy.
The first item is the request for the county board to approve the newly negotiated labor contract with the 86th District Court Teamsters Unit. I just want to summarize the terms of this contract for you. It begins in January of this year and provides a 1.5% wage increase, which is the same wage increase that all other county employees received over the term. The second year, it's a 1.5% wage increase, and the third year, 2012, it's a 1.75% 6% wage increase. I'm very pleased to add that at your direction, for the first time in the county, we were able to negotiate in a copay on health insurance. Starting in 2011, these employees will pay a 4% copay on their health premium if they decide to enter into our health wellness, our health initiative program and go through our wellness program. If they choose not to, they will pay a 6% copay on health insurance. And then in 2012, those numbers will go up to a 6% copay if they agree to be in the wellness program and an 8% copay if they do not. I feel really good about that. I know that eventually we want that to be a higher percentage, but I think the important thing is here, we have the first unit that's agreed to a health copay, and I think we're on our way towards bringing that about for all county employees. And so I would ask you, I'll be glad to answer any questions, and then ask you to consider to ratify the contract.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to ratify the District Court Teamsters contract as outlined by the Administrator and the HR Director.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Discussion. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Carried.
Dean will handle the second item.
I believe everyone has the claims summary for the month of May. It does include the benefits posting under the payroll section from April because of the timing when we had the board meeting last month. Total claims, less the STEPCA and APREA, are $8,853,119.25.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve claims in an amount of $8,853,119.25.
Support.
Okay, yeah. Discussion.
Dean, now I'm assuming with the ratification of this contract that we just approved tonight, there will be back pay to go back to that district court unit, correct?
Correct. There is a retro pay
And that will
adjustment.
show up next month, probably?
Most likely.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? By roll call vote.
Commissioner Hooper,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Stepka,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece,
Yes.
Friend? Yes. Chairman Thomas?
Yes. Now, a motion for the STEPCA and APREA claims.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the STEPCA APREA claim in amount of $2,602.62.
Support. Been moved and supported by Fleece. Discussion. By roll call vote.
Commissioner Inman,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Stepka,
Abstain.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece,
Yes.
Friend? Yes. Hooper?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, is just an update on the Siegel Subcommittee. There will be a presentation by the Siegel Subcommittee next week at the Public Safety and Health meeting. We know that's not an ideal meeting, but getting the schedules together was difficult for tonight. So we'll have that presentation for you next week, which will be the whole board and, of course, be televised, and there will be opportunity to bring them back if there are further questions. I have not seen the report. Neither has Jennifer Seaman, our director, yet. We've seen the minutes of the meeting, so we have some indication of what's going to be coming from that. But the report will be here next week, and you all have a chance to get it, and that'll be a meeting where you will have some time to ask questions and have a good dialogue, because generally those meetings are shorter than perhaps the board meeting. And then the final item on this this report is just the human resources snapshot that we provide you. It's as of March 31st, and that's just for your information. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Question. I don't think it could be shorter than this board meeting.
Well, there's still a few items that we have to go over.
We're not done yet.
Have a
We
nice
might
night.
have a record.
Okay.
This puppy, I got work to do.
Items removed from the consent calendar. Number 39, Sonny?
Mr. Chairman, I had this item removed. As most of you know, I was a subcontractor on a portion of this project, although nothing in change order number 3 did I have anything to do with, but because I was a subcontractor on part of this project, I wanted to have that pulled in. I will be abstaining from that vote.
Okay,
I would move that the Grand Traverse County Board approve Hallmark Construction's change order number 3 for the Twin Lakes Access to Recreation Project
Support.
for an increase of $3,036.41.
Support.
she already did.
I thought he was done a long time ago.
She's quick.
Just trying to
That's what I went
stretch
back
out the
to.
deal.
Discussion,
Thanks to these.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a roll call.
Oh, we were at,
Yeah, we're all right, we got this sunny out.
that's right, he wants to abstain.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Stepka?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Abstain, please.
Fleece?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Hooper?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes. Next one is number 40. Statute,
Yeah, I pulled this one. This is the support for the statutory amendment to the BPW Act, and I didn't support this at the committee level, do not wish to support it now, so.
okay. You just don't want to support it.
Well,
Fine.
it's part of the consent calendar, so
See,
I didn't want to vote for it, so I pulled it off.
Would somebody make a motion, please?
I would move that we support the resolution of support for statutory amendment to the Board of Public Works Act.
Is there supported by, please. Discussion?
Well, we should note that this is a resolution that's requesting the possible expansion of the Board of Public Works for more members. So as that the audience that's listening understands.
yeah, that's
that
fine.
This was a resolution supporting a legislative change to allow the county the ability to appoint additional members to the Board of Public Works.
At their discretion.
Right.
It doesn't make it a finite size, it's a range, but it would expand the range.
But it's going to take an,
An act of God.
no, well, no.
State legislature.
The law is going to have to be changed, yeah.
That's correct.
Right.
The act of God would be
And I
faster.
might add that this is also supported by the Sewer and Water Committee and the Board of Public Works.
Okay, Ross?
And I would just like to explain the reason I'm voting against this is because previously I had stated that I didn't think we should be, fooling around with the Board of Public Works until we resolve the financing issues with the septic plant, and I still maintain that position.
Fine, thank you.
Would you want board configuration take care of everything?
Sarcasm.
Okay, any further discussion? By roll call vote.
Commissioner Stepka?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Hooper?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Richardson?
No.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes. Passes 7-1. Now, the next one was number 44.
That was me. Beth, Chris Maxbauer, Sonny, and I are on the subcommittee. And we picked two candidates, one for the Commission on Aging and the other for Parks and Rec. The only question I have is with regard to Parks and Rec. We almost postponed the decision on that selection because one individual who had applied did not show up. And then Rebecca Mann-Cass, who also applied, apparently was sick. And we were thinking about going back and reviewing her video to make a decision because one person didn't show, and we thought we might go back and look at the video of Rebecca's interview. We thought about adjourning, then we changed our minds and made the vote. But about 10 minutes later, I learned that one individual who applied, I think his name was Tim Johnson, that corrected on my notes in front of me. He apparently was coming in the building as...
You mean Scott Joseph?
Pardon me?
Scott Joseph?
Scott Joseph, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Was coming in the building. I learned that he had some extraordinary circumstances. He did try calling to say that he was going to be late, I guess. So I'm just wondering, I just bring that up maybe for discussion. I'm happy with the selections we made, but I'm just wondering if we should interview the other two people that didn't have the chance to appear.
that wouldn't affect the Commission on Aging.
No, this is strictly with respect to Parks and Rec.
I guess, I kind of, even as one of the older senior commissioners here, I learned a few things from Commissioner Fleece when he was chair of L&A, and that is that he kind of guided us to the point where, if a certain number of people couldn't make it for that date for an interview, we tried to set up another interview date to give benefit to, other folks that had conflicts with their schedule to come in and interview before we made our decision. And I think it worked out well, just it took a little more time on our part, but, I think it showed that, we had, we were caring and compassion and willing to take everybody and give them time to interview. I think that with this particular situation, I think we sort of painted ourselves in a corner because the committee had already made a recommendation. And I don't know how you go back to this individual that's already been recommended for the appointment and say, we're going to pull the recommendation and not appoint you as we said we would. I mean, then he would have a perspective of, I think that he would feel that, he wasn't dealt properly. But, I mean, I would have preferred that, the committee, based on what you're telling me, would have not made a decision and just asked for a different interview date. But I think once the committee makes the decision, I can't recall that we've ever reversed a decision by a committee, and I don't know how you can tell the guy that we've recommended him, and now we're not going to recommend him. I mean, you sort of just, and this is my understanding, this appointment is just for till the end of the year. So I think you just let this one go and then come back and take the set, at the beginning of the year again. That'd be my suggestion. I'd hate to call this guy up and say, we're not going to give you the appointment. So.
I guess the comment that I would make is, and I'm sorry, I'm lousy with names for tonight, I can't remember, the lady that was scheduled to run, they called and said she was ill. She has interviewed for this position twice or three times previously and was not appointed. The gentleman that we are recommending for the Parks and Recreation position, John Galbraith, has also interviewed for this position at least once or twice before.
3 times.
But he is an experienced recreational professional. So we felt that he would bring to the Parks and Recreation Board maybe a different perspective than someone off the street, and that, as we look toward expanding, programming and those kind of things as part of our recreation program, having that experience. He sits on the Central Michigan University's Recreation Board. So, he's got some involvement previously with different types of programming and how they enter into a wide variety of groups of people. And we thought that was an expertise that we may be short of on the Parks and Recreation Committee. And because of the fact that this is, exactly like you said, it's only an 8-month appointment, well, it's probably 7 months appointment because it expires the end of the year, we felt that it was a good decision to appoint him to this board at this time. And therefore, Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve Stacy Lee Iles to the Commission on Aging for the remainder of the term ending December 31st, 2011, and John Galbraith to the Parks and Recreation Commissioner for the remaining 3-year term, which ends December 31st of 2010.
Is there support?
I'll support that motion.
Further discussion? Larry?
Well, did your committee advise the people being interviewed at the conclusion of the interview that you were merely a subcommittee of the board and that a recommendation would be made and the final decision at the end of the month?
Right, that we would be making a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, and that recommendation would be ratified by the Board of Commissioners at the end of the month. And at that point, the appointments become official.
I would like to see these appointments made individually. One to Commission on Aging and separately as opposed to 2 rolled into the one motion. If you consider changing your motion.
Well, the resolution is drafted, has both of them. We have a motion and a second. I suggest that we vote on that and then decide.
I've been aware of this situation for a few days, and I've been pretty torn, both directions. One comment I would make, because I know the gentleman who ended up not making the meeting until it was over had basically a work-related problem. And one suggestion I would make is that these interviews be scheduled at some time other than the middle of the day, because a lot of people who might want to participate on these volunteer boards do work for a living, and possibly, a very late afternoon or early evening interview time might be a better time to.
I've been complaining about that, about our meetings too.
Yeah, well, that's another whole issue, but I'm with you on that one too.
Long ways for me to come from the central time zone for a middle of the day meeting.
Well, I don't know if everyone is served on an interview committee, but I think Commissioner Stepka and Commissioner Richardson bring up two good points. I don't have a problem passing this one on, but I think, because of the situation that's been described, I think that we can learn off this situation, and I think we should take the advice of Commissioner Richardson and Commissioner Stepka moving forward for future appointments, that if we can try to accommodate schedules to get everybody interviewed that is willing to at least come and call the county and make an effort, I think we should try to do that. And, I don't have an objection if I'm on an interview committee coming here at 5 or 6 o'clock to do interviews. I mean, that would be fine too, so. I think we can learn some things off this.
I think John also, if I remember right, when we were still with LNA, still doing the LNA subcommittee, and he interviewed, he was one of the people that kind of we were debating between 2, 3, and he was one of the names that we were looking at. I forget, did you have any concerns with any of them, or you were fine with these two appointments?
No, I'm fine with these two. Well, yeah. I'm fine with that one.
And like I said earlier, I'm fine with John. I think he's well qualified. I just wanted really to bring it to the attention of everyone that there were 2 other people that had some issues that maybe we can remedy in the future just by bringing this to everyone's attention.
I think you bring up some good points.
Well, I think in that regard, though, I think we have that same discussion in a lot of the issues that we deal with, whether we're talking about the interview process or the fact that our meeting schedules are what they are. It becomes harder and harder to get qualified people to serve on our committees and on our commissions, just simply because the meeting times, whether, I don't know, I'm not sure, Parks and Rec now meets at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
7
o'clock?
6?
I'm
sorry.
For years, Parks and Recreation met at noon.
Yeah.
And I know I sat on that board for a number of years when they met at noon, and, there's nothing worse in my business than have to be to a 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock meeting, and that included these interviews that were held at 1 o'clock.
You say it's hard to...
He misses his middle day nap.
It's hard to get people to sign up to volunteer for the meetings, but, this past year, being on these subcommittees that we started since January, and last year being on LNA, boy, I've been really happy with the candidates we've had, and sometimes it's been some hard choices between a couple of them.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm leaning towards doing this thing, because it's a short term, and we would have another opportunity to interview the folks again, and, there seems to be some continuation of openings on Parks and Rec, and I would just believe that, there would be openings in the near future as well, so.
But some of these people, you've already interviewed them more than once.
Exactly.
Why do we have to interview them again?
Yeah, you're right.
The next vacancy, just put one of them on.
Well, one of the gentlemen that interviewed is interviewed for 3 different appointments in the last 6 months.
Well, don't let him get away. Ross?
I was just going to say that I will vote against this motion, not because I don't think either one of these 2 people should be appointed, because my understanding is they're both very good candidates, but only to give my fellow commissioners the opportunity just to split these so that we can deal with them individually.
Larry?
I'll also vote no, particularly on the
Let's vote.
Parks and Rec.
We only vote on one. It's one motion.
Right, but the reason for my no vote is due to the 2 people that didn't get interviewed. I don't see the emergency for the appointment, and I realize it's a short appointment, but it's also a process too.
Anything else? By roll call vote.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Yes.
Fleece?
No.
Friend?
Yes.
Hooper?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Richardson?
No.
Stepka?
I guess, no.
And Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
5-3.
5-3. Passes. Okay.
Right, next order.
Is there any other unfinished business? If not, new business.
No, we haven't.
Well, it's
we have
unfinished
unfinished
business.
business. We haven't done that yet. We just did the consent calendar items.
Oh,
We're trying to speed things up.
I was just going by what page I was on.
Just jump straight to adjournment, we go.
This was unfinished business. That was, okay. Anyway, the right guy's up here.
No.
All right, I appreciate Jason Jones, Parks and Recreation Director. I came to RMNA earlier this month in regards to building a new entry road into the Maple Bay Park. And when I came to you, I came with 3 bids, one from Elmer's, one from SRW, and one from RW Pop. Elmer's quoted 1,400-foot long drive, 14 feet wide, as well as a 100-foot diameter loop. The other 2 bidders came in with 1,400 feet long for the drive and 10 feet wide with an 80-foot diameter loop. At RMNA, it was suggested to me that we go out for 3 bids, all with the same specifications. We went out for those 3 bids, and between the first time we got bids and the second time we got bids, one of the original bidders actually went bankrupt. So we have 3 new bids, all for 14-foot long driveways, 14 feet wide, from Elmer's, from RW Pop, and from Mullen. The low bidder is still Elmer's at a cost of $11,998 versus RW Pop at $14,400.40 and Mullen at $18,608. My recommendation, based on Elmer's coming in as the lowest bidder for $11,998, that we move forward with Elmer's. The funding for this project is set aside, and it was originally set aside several years ago set aside to specifically build a road under the west side of this park.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to contract with Elmer's Crane and Dozer for the construction of the access at Maple Bay Park for $11,998.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Discussion. Ross?
No, that's fine.
No discussion? All in
I have
favor?
a comment.
Go ahead.
Jason, thank you for going out for the bids again. But the reason that was brought up is I think it's very important that everybody's on the same playing field. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Now we can go to new business.
Can we?
Or the next.
We got one more.
Second item, unfinished business. I could speak to that, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
All right. Regarding the county administrator's draft contract for the benefit of the public and the commission, the committee met, the chairman and the board approved an ad hoc committee to establish a committee to review and evaluate the county administrator's contract. Myself, Commissioner Stepka, Commissioner Fleece, met with County Administrator Dennis Aloya regarding his existing contract. We met on Tuesday, April 20th, Tuesday, May 18th, Wednesday, May 19th, and we now have a recommendation to the full Board of Commissioners. The highlights are the change of his contracts from his current contract to the draft contract that you have in front of you. And I understand that Bob Cooney has a couple amendment, a couple line changes in the draft contract he'd like to talk to you about. But as you know, Dennis has declined his increase that we have given to employees of 1.5% for 2010, so his contract indicates a salary of $130,040. He has continued to, on a voluntary basis, but which we've installed into the draft contract, paying 10% copay on health insurance premiums. He's asked us to consider eliminating the $6,000 car allowance in exchange for an additional stipend of $5,000 to his deferred compensation. Given his total number of years as a county administrator, he has asked for an additional week of vacation that would be consistent with the number of years that an employee at the county would have. We are giving him consideration for his total years as an administrator, so that would go from 4 to 5 weeks. His current term on his contract, there is no term, it's just an ongoing contract with notification. We are proposing a fixed contract for a 3-year period, and during the 3rd year, or hopefully prior to the 3rd year, the Board of Commissioners would agree to begin discussions and negotiations with Mr. Aloya regarding the renewal of his contract or a new contract, and there is a provision that we would do so less than 180 days prior to the termination of the date of his contract. And if we're unable to come to terms with the administrator, that we would agree to, at his discretion, he could leave the county and seek other employment and receive 6 months' worth of severance pay. He can have that either in one lump sum, or he can have that over the distribution of 6 months as the normal county employees are being compensated for. The termination notice, he currently has 9 months. We're extending that to 12 months. And this provision also holds true that if we at any time terminate his contracts, except for the provision of the early retirement notice or the 180 days provision, that we would agree to pay him 12 months worth of salary and benefits, either in one lump sum, and it would be up to his discretion, or over a period of 12 months. His current termination or notification of discontinuing employment is 60 days. We're moving that to 45 days. And we've added a retirement notice, something that is not in his contract. We had verbally with our previous county administrator, worked real well, so he's agreed to extend a retirement notice. That means he's not going out and looking for a new job. He's actually retiring as a county administrator profession. He would give us 12 months' notice. That would provide us adequate time for the county board to put together a process of either finding a search firm or other processes that would allow us time to go out and advertise, interview, and select a new county administrator for the county, and give those two individuals hopefully some time to work together for a smooth transition. I have a narrative here for you, but basically that's a reiteration of the things I've already talked about. And I think that the committee felt very strongly that, as well as myself, that the reason why we're asking for the continuation of the contract is that he certainly has had consistent performance evaluations on average above exceeding requirements since his employment here in 2001. He provided us leadership in the budget management of the county, increasing our fund balance from up to $9 million. By virtue of that, we've received an increased Standard & Poor's bond rating of AA. We've had 4 years of continuing recognition by the Government Finance Officers Association and Certificate of Achievement for financial reporting. We've done a number of things since he's been here. We've planned and funded a jail expansion, renovation of the historic courthouse, the renovation of the 2 historic churches, and a new building for the Robert P. Griffin Justice Hall, and most recently the renovation of the governmental 3rd floor. And again, those were all managed within our budget process without going out to the public and asking for additional money. In addition, given the economic challenges that we have for county government this year and the following years to come, I think it's important that we maintain our management team and overall operational stability. In order to do this, the board will rely heavily on our experienced county administrator, Mr. Aloya, And the administrator is currently recommending and moving forward with a process for budgeting of outcomes, which we will need his leadership to assist us in accomplishing that task. The committee is asking for your support and recommendation on the draft administrator's contract. You have at your table the draft administrator's contract. You also have an amendment, a couple line amendments that Bob Cooney has passed out, and I would, Mr. Chairman, if we could ask Mr. Cooney to respond to that, and that would be fine with me.
Yeah, I had a couple of commissioners that contacted me and felt it was a little bit confusing as to whether possibly the 1-year severance pay and the 6-month severance pay might both apply in some instance, and of course the committee didn't intend that, and so I've made it clear with the language in red that it's either the 1 year or the 6 month. The 1 year is triggered by a termination without cause by the county. The 6 month is triggered by a decision not to enter into a new employment contract with 180 days prior to the termination of this contract. That's about it.
Looking through this, this is definitely a more favorable recommendation that came to the subcommittee. I certainly think it's more fair. Still provides a lot of the benefits that you're trying to get across in the contract. Again, you mentioned the original recommendation was 3-year revolving and 24-month severance, and the subcommittee looked at that again and has taken that to a 3-year contract with a 1-year severance. I think it was beneficial on both the county and on Dennis's part regarding the terms on the salary, the insurance premium, the car allowance with the deferred compensation trade, and as well the additional week's vacation, I think is justifiable. I would be in favor of this contract, but the missing component, I think, for me, from the subcommittee is in looking at what is comparable and competitive in the industry, I don't have that information. And that's something that I would like to have. I'd like to know what other contracts look like with other county commissions, with other entities within Traverse City, organizations within Traverse City. I find the terms acceptable, but I want to be able to justify them to constituents, to staff. So I would make a motion to refer the contract to Resource Management Administration, just to have that time to look into those comparables.
Second.
What was the motion?
Just to refer the contract to
Send it
Resource
back to
Management
committee.
Administration, just to have the time to look into those comparables. As I said, I find that the terms I'm agreeable to, but I want to make sure that it's justifiable to constituents and staff and competitive in the industry.
Is there support?
I support it.
Discussion?
Well, I'm comfortable to approve this draft contract as it's before us tonight, so I won't support the motion to send it back to committee again. The one thing that I really liked about the final draft that we got that was there and was in the first draft is when we're talking about the county board entering into renegotiating the contract, I like the term expiration instead of termination of the contract. I just, every time I read that, it says 180 days prior to the termination. Well, it's not prior to the termination, it's prior to the expiration of the contract. So, you know, I won't support the motion to send it back to committee. I believe the subcommittee's done a good job, and, you know, if this motion passes, that's fine. If it doesn't pass, I'll make a motion to approve the contract as drafted.
On 2 points. One is that we did use as a source the county administrator's present contract and the information we did receive from Bob Cooney and Al Schneider regarding the requirements of employment contracts for county administrators to meet state statute. There really isn't anything else that's being recommended that that I would see as significantly different. Now, I will make, just on personal knowledge, I will make a remark that I don't think it would be fair for governmental boards to ask other county administrators for copies of their contracts to compare, so they can compare and review for their current county administrator. I just don't envision that county administrators around the state are going to be all overly excited about disclosing all 83 contracts for all the county administrators in the state of Michigan and trying to make a debate on who's got what and what contracts. And the commission, or the ad hoc committee did not review the contracts that Dennis had received, several, just a couple of them really. Those were privileged and we did not review those, so they're not applicable to, disclosure at this point. So I just don't, the strength of the ad hoc committee's recommendation is the dialogue we had with the county administrator as to what we would like and what he would like in terms of a contract to move forward with, a favorable relationship continuing. So we're not judging any of the terms and conditions on the contracts based on what other deals have been struck with other boards in the county, with counties in the state of Michigan. It's this contract is specific to the needs and desires of the Board of Commissioners, or the ad hoc committee, and the county administrator based on where he is in his career cycle and his request for some level of stability, not only for us, but for him, and some assurances that, we'd like to continue his employment through the end of his tenure as a county administrator, which I hope we will do. So, I can't support going out and trying to request copies of contracts from other administrators. I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I really don't think it's appropriate, but that's my comment.
I supported Beth's motion, but for different reasons. I'm not that concerned about what other county administrators are dealt with or not dealt with. I spent a lot of time reviewing the contract that was emailed to us Monday afternoon. But then when we get here tonight, we're handed like 2 pages with some highlighted areas where things are changed, but yet there are other things that I think are changed too. Mostly, I just need some time to read through the whole thing because I don't think we've been given enough time to really review this and know exactly what we're signing up here for. I'm not even certain I can ask intelligent questions at this particular point in time, and that's why I'm suggesting that we delay it. I mean, in general, I don't have any. I think the contract is a good one. I mean, specific problems with it, but I just need some time to review it. We haven't been given that time.
And perhaps the motion should have been just to table it for 1 month. I wasn't necessarily saying it should go back to subcommittee for any specific work. As I said, I look at the different clauses in the contract, and it is more favorable, and I don't have any sticking points where I'm looking at it going, but still, when I have people contact me and say, what about this or that, I'd like to know, I'd like for me to be able to have the time to contact other organizations, not even specifically, I'm not asking the county staff to do it, I'm not asking, commissioners to do it, but just to have the time to take a look at it and say, yep, that absolutely makes sense and is, competitive in the, within other organizations in the industry.
Well, Ross, I guess I can appreciate your opinion, because you're entitled to your opinion, but I will say that, we did place everybody on notice at, not only at the Resource Administrative Committee, but also at Ways and Means, that we were going to conclude the contract and get it out hopefully by Friday or Monday. That would give you, we got it out Friday around sometime in the early afternoon. So you had all Friday evening.
No, I didn't. The contract was not in my board book. okay?
But it was emailed to you.
Yeah, on Monday afternoon.
Okay. All I'm saying is that you had time all Monday afternoon, all day Tuesday, and all day
I actually-
Wednesday
you know, Larry, I
to
actually
read 5 pages.
I actually spent quite a bit of time looking at it, and then I get here and we get dropped on our desk 2 pages with edits.
I don't have a problem with the edits. I mean, this
Well, I'm sure you don't have a problem with the
I mean,
edits.
it's pretty self-explanatory.
You didn't have a problem with the first contract either, but whatever. I'm just explaining why I think, we need a little more time. But I'm sure you have the votes to carry the day, so go for it.
Mr. Cooney, the pages that he refers to that you handed out tonight, the provisions that are in there that are in color, other than black, are the only changes to the contract. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes.
Semantic for the most part.
So I think that kind of mutes your concern. You know, if you can't read 3 sentences tonight here at the desk, well. And number 2, Beth, I agree with Larry, you're entitled to your opinion. But you know, I'm not concerned about who makes what their benefits are, or anything else. I'm concerned about the performance and the execution of that man's duties and how well he does them for Grand Traverse County. If we have to pay him $150,000 to keep him, I'd probably entertain that thought. I think Dennis has done a remarkable job since he's been here in 2001, and to compare him to somebody for benefits and wages when you have no comparison of work performance, what other county do you know right in the surrounding area or any place that has $9 million surplus, if you will? I think Dennis has done an excellent job. If we were going to refer this back to committee, why'd we have the committee to begin with? And I think we've looked long and hard about it. Part of our job on that committee was to try and balance the commission's wishes with the administrator's wishes. I think we've done a fair job at that, and I'll not support your motion. And had you waited to have been acknowledged by the chairman tonight, I would have been able to speak first, I believe.
I think I was.
Anything else? Mike?
No.
Repeat the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mike has a comment.
Just real quick, I'm on the subcommittee. I think the process worked pretty well. I appreciate the work of all that were on the committee. I appreciate Dennis's cooperation and suggestions he made. And I think it's a fair contract under the circumstances. And looking back historically, with regard to Dennis's fine performance for the county, I appreciate Beth's comments too, in terms of its competitiveness in the market and questions from constituents. I haven't received any questions from constituents, excuse me, but we were told at the meeting that it was sort of on par with the market. And I understand the issue of privilege with respect to other individuals' contracts, but what I'm wondering is it even possible to get copies of other contracts, or at least information to to compare this to other similar contracts out there? I mean,
I would think it would be public
The Board of
document.
Commissioners would have to file a Freedom of Information Act with all 83 counties. And
I have to agree with Larry, I don't understand the relevance
to me,
of it,
that's,
though.
there's not, this isn't, I'm not on the floor. so.
I'm just asking.
There's a lot of information on the internet and on different places. I mean, I was looking and found some specific information on county administrators and other, high managerial positions on the west coast of Florida, for instance. It talked about salaries and benefits and specific things like, severance packages and so forth. So I mean, it's just a question of, you know, hunting it down, but.
You just mentioned at the subcommittee level that you were told that the contract would be on par with what was offered. So obviously, that is an appropriate question to ask. And I'm just saying that I haven't seen that here at this level. You might have at the subcommittee, and I haven't. You know, and this doesn't, I'm looking at this as the contract. It's not a review of Dennis's performance. To me, they're two distinct issues. I've had the opportunity to review Dennis with other commissioners last December and sit down and talk with him about that in January, and that went very well. So I'm not combining the two issues.
The initial discussion regarding comparisons was that initially Dennis had reviewed not only a couple county administrator contracts, but other governmental officials not connected with county government, and they have different style contracts. And the only remark that I particularly made was, if it came from me, is that when we originally came in and said, you know, there's 3-year fixed, there's a rolling 3-year, or there's a auto renewal on it, those are consistent with governmental agencies, and that's the way the memo was stated. It wasn't consistent with county administrator contracts. And we later learned that, through Mr. Cooney's office, is that those types of contracts are not consistent with county administrator contracts, and by statute, they are not. That they have to have a fixed term, and it can no longer be 3 years. So you can't take that comment into context in terms of this recommendation.
Anything else? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Fleece?
No.
Friend?
Yes.
Hooper?
No.
Inman?
Nope.
Richardson?
Yes.
Stepka?
No.
Wheelock?
No.
Chairman Thomas?
No.
6-2, fails.
Yes, sir.
I would make a motion that we accept the committee's recommendation of the contract with the administrator as presented, with the changes by Mr. Cooney, the legalese changes that he's indicated on the 2 pages he handed us tonight.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Discussion.
I guess the only thing, you know, in regard to the two, you know, I guess, legal changes that Bob is recommending tonight, I read this thing a half a dozen times, and I would have never even thought to question whether or not you could apply both conditions to either one of these situations, that he would, under either one of the circumstances, you would be eligible for the 6 months and the 12-month severance pays. You know, I would have never dreamed that anybody would ever ask it. I thought it was very clear that either under this circumstances you get 6 months, or under this circumstances you get 12. And the 2 clarifications that are outlined by Mr. Cooney just specifically state in both of those 2 sections that you can't get both. You get one or the other.
Dennis, does the changes that Mr. Cooney has provided the board, did those meet your acceptance?
I just saw them 5 minutes before the meeting, so
Okay.
I wasn't even aware there were any changes being proposed. But with a quick read of them, they seem to be okay.
Okay, all right.
Ross? Go ahead. Oh, go.
Well, I just want to, I guess I just want to say that, you know, we have to put ourselves in not only our spot, but the spot of our county administrator, that, you know, with his age, being at 55, and the marketability of as a senior administrator in that age group, you know, you can't discriminate with age in terms of employment, but in terms of attractiveness and, you know, for him to go out and market himself, you know, I think it's important for this commission to at least provide some direction through this contract, that we have the confidence in him to continue his employment, that he's done a great job for us. I think that's the underlying reason why we're moving forward with this contract, along with some other minor monetary things that we're shifting around. So, you know, on my part, Dennis, I think you've done a great job since you've been here since 2001. I'm proud to be affiliated with you. You've done some great things to the county. We would have never been in the financial position that we are today without your leadership.
I had a question, Bob. I can assume that you drafted the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, it was a draft that was given to me by the committee.
You put it into its final form?
Right.
Okay. Can we talk about Section 3E as in Edward? This is the, what happens toward the end of the contract if the contract is not renewed? And it says, if employer, that is the Board of Commissioners, opts not to enter into a new agreement, the administrator may at his discretion leave to seek other employment, and employer continues to pay administrator the remaining 6 months' salary and benefits due under this agreement. Okay, so that means that, let's say, for instance, that a contract would expire on December 31st, and on June 30th, the board has not renewed the contract past the end of the term. So at that point, the administrator can say, well, I've got to go find myself a new job, so I'll see you. And then we pay him for 6 months.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happens if the administrator would wait until, say, September 30th, 3 months after that, and then says, well, I've only got 3 months left on my contract, so now I got to go find a new job because you guys haven't given me a new contract?
The county would only be obligated to pay that remaining portion of the contract.
3 months?
Yes.
Okay. So if we don't terminate the contract,
Because-
if we don't renew the contract, then he gets paid to the end of the contract, and the only bonus is he can leave 6 months before the end.
That's correct.
Okay.
And if I could, I've tried not to say too much about this, but this is different than what I have now. It's less security than any contract I've had in Michigan.
I was going to say, it seems less secure than what you have now, actually.
Well, it absolutely is, but he's also saying that what I have now is not a legal contract.
Oh,
So
I hadn't heard that.
all my other contracts have been 3 years with 90 days' notice. It's automatically renewed unless terminated. But I've been told that's not legal, so that's why this is a 3-year fixed contract. And in fact, now if you told me to leave, I would get 9 months' pay.
Right.
Where in the end of this contract, the most I would get 6. But, I understand the need to look at every aspect of it. My intention here is not to do anything to harm the county, of course. But understand, too, and I mentioned this to a commissioner today, what would be the sense of me 6 months, 2 years and 6 months from now, if the board doesn't renew the contract? What would be the sense of me quitting and taking that pay and then go looking for a job when I don't have a job? If I'm going to try to find another job, I'd much rather be working, looking for a job, than saying, I quit my contract with them and now I'm looking for another job. It doesn't seem to be a practical alternative to me, and it's not something that is by any means ideal or what I was hoping for. But I want to say that I'm willing to do it because it's what the attorneys have said is appropriate, and I want to, and I was willing to go from 2 years to 1 year because I thought it would garner more support among the county board. And I've mentioned to county board members that have talked to me about this that it's actually more important to me to see support of the county board than it is what's in the terms of this contract. I want to know whether this board wants me to be here or not be here. And that was really the reason that I had no qualms whatsoever about changing it from 2 years to 1 year, even though that was not in my best interest. And I still, although I will say that I feel that this is fair, and I'm willing to go along with it with the board if the board is willing. And then the last thing is that, and I want to make sure I say this in the right way. I've told you before, and I mean it, I only want to be here if you want me to be here. I really don't. I really hope, I know that Commissioner Friend said you vote on this in terms of the contract itself, and it doesn't really reflect on me and my ability or your desire to have me here, but that's not how I look at it. That may be practically what it is, but that's not how I look at this. And, frankly, whether it's voted on tonight or it's voted on another time or it passes 6-2 or whatever it might be, I just really hope that commissioners will be honest not only with me but with the public about their reasons for supporting me or not supporting me. I don't want this to be used as a convenient mechanism to say, well, I didn't vote for it. When somebody comes up to you and says, that darn administrator, why in the world is he there? Well, I didn't support it. If you don't support it or don't support me, then continue to say it. It just so happens that the two of you that have a problem with this and want to study it some more are probably the two that gave me the lowest evaluation. And it's important for me to know, is this a reflection of the contract or is this a reflection of your confidence in me a year after or 6 months after, 8 months after you evaluated me? So that's really what I'm looking for in this. That was the purpose of this. And I truly mean it when I say that I want to do a good job for the whole board. Now, I know that I can't have that I won't ever have everybody's support, but I want to have a realistic idea of where the county board sits with me in this role. And I just hope I won't be determined on a clause that I didn't see either at the, tonight before it showed up. I didn't even know this was being proposed. So anyway, but I have gladly made changes and reductions in what I was asking for, simply because I know it's in the best interest of the citizens of the county. I want to stay here. I want to work with the board, and I want to not have the terms of the contract be an impediment to get a read on how the board feels about their support for me in this role. So thank you for listening to that.
Ready to vote?
Yes.
I have a question for Dennis.
Go ahead.
So Dennis, you wouldn't have any problem then, obviously, and I take your comments as sincere, in having a more consensus from the board. If we were to vote a month from now and it were a unanimous vote, you would prefer to see something like that if we were just given the time to compare those, correct?
Yeah, but quite honestly, we've been talking about this for several months, and I would have thought if there was a need to do some comparisons, there's been plenty of time to do comparisons, in my opinion.
Actually, it was brought up at the subcommittee, and it was an emotion, actually, that those comparisons would be brought forth to the board.
No, that's not the way it went down.
And, I don't feel that this is an indication of your job performance. Again, we've had the opportunity to review you. You may have said that those were the lowest job performance, but I think that what you were looking at was the specific numbers and not in particular the conversation that we were able to have in January, which I think was a very beneficial conversation. At least I felt that it was. I am not looking at this at all in the same way.
My recollection, Commissioner Friend, is that the motion was to move forward and do the ad hoc committee, and that any source of information that was used to prepare the contract, that we would provide that to the board. And we're indicating in the letter that the sole source of the information used for this recommendation of this new contract was the existing county administrator's contract and the recommendation from Bob Cooney, Civil Counsel, and Al Schneider, Prosecuting Attorney, regarding the requirements of the county administrator's contract as required by state statute, and the committee did not review and read any privileged contracts that the county administrator had in his possession.
Here's the crux of it. As I said, I find the terms favorable, fine. But when I have 2 residents contact me regarding this, when I have 3 employees contact me regarding this, I have to be able to say, you know what, I find these terms acceptable, and here's why I find them. And to me, that's the missing component that I would just like to have the time to do.
Beth, it's not a popularity contest by any means. And if you had 3 employees contact you out of 500 and some employees, that's a pretty minor percentage. And what those employees were doing, talking to you about the administrator's contract, I find that a little out of place. We're here to compensate that man and retain him for the excellent job he's done for the county. And, there's the old 5-letter word called greed. I don't think that anybody can say Dennis has greed in his heart. I do, because I want to keep him. And I don't feel very good about the monetary compensation in this contract where he didn't gain at all. Look at the executives in this country today, even in the hard times. Look at General Motors, for example, and Chrysler. They went belly up. The government bailed them out. And look at the millions they're earning, and there's a reason they're earning those millions. It's because they know their business, just like Dennis knows his business. I feel really fortunate that Grand Traverse County has him, and to have a fund balance in excess of $9 million after 9 years, I find that really remarkable, particularly in the hard times we have today.
And I just want to say,
Anybody else?
if the board wants to, if the board determines or they don't approve this and they want to delay it, the only thing, I'm fine with that. I would, if that helps commissioners have the time they need, I'm fine with that. The only thing I would ask is I'd like to have it for sure done before August, and the reason for that is because the statute requires that if you do it after August, it can only be a one-year agreement, and I would really like to have more stability if possible.
Well,
I'll tell you what, there's just absolutely no way that I'm going to ever agree to contact, through the Freedom of Information law process, to request copies of county administrator contracts from all 83 counties to see and compare what Dennis is getting compared to what they're getting. This contract is based on the needs of that Dennis has expressed to this individual ad hoc committee and to this board regarding the conditions he'd like to have with some give and take to continue to move forward. I think it's a fair and equitable contract. And as far as I'm concerned, what other county boards and commissions have done for their administrators is irrelevant, and it's the needs and the interest of this Board of Commissioners with the needs and the interest with our present county administrator.
Call the motion.
Yes, please.
Just real quick, again, I voted in support of the contract. I was on the committee, and I appreciate, again, Dennis's input and some of the concessions he's made and his good performance over the years. In terms of Commissioner Friend's comments and answering to constituents and employees, I think our jobs as commissioners are to, if we have even one question from a constituent, we should attempt to get that answered. So I think those are valid comments, and perhaps it wouldn't hurt to wait and just make sure we're completely sure. Anyway, I just want to indicate that I think Commissioner Friend does make some good points.
I will support the contract. I didn't think I would do that when I came here tonight, but Bob has answered some of my biggest questions about that, what happens at the end of the contract thing. I also was not aware that the contract he was under now is considered illegal. And I don't think that any of us who have expressed reservations here tonight have any problems with the contract itself. It's more of a question of, have we really done the due diligence and all? And I don't think there's anything in the contract that is that much of a problem that we're going to get in trouble voting for it.
we have a motion on the floor. By roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Friend?
No.
Hooper?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Stepka?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas? Yes. Thank you. 8-1, 7-1.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Well, seeing as though I was, is there any unfinished business? Well, seeing as though I was in such a hurry for new business a while ago, we have no new business? No, that's why I was in a hurry. This is the second chance for public comment. Yes, sir?
My name is Norbert Tutlis. I live at 4565 Buckhorn Drive. And what I've witnessed tonight is the same attitude that I witnessed April 9th of 2009. You painted yourself in a corner. I don't think taking 30 days to evaluate whether Dennis is being paid appropriately, you're looking at it like death, but there's life. What if he's underpaid by 50 grand? How would you know unless you get more facts? You sit there and you say, we're happy with it. We got enough information. We made our decision. You made it in a vacuum, folks. It's a big world out there. There's a lot of information. And no, you wouldn't have to FOIA the information. It's all public salaries. All you have to do is ask for it. Most of the people would probably be happy to give it to you. And what's wrong with having enough information? I will contact my representative, Michael Stepka. I have some very definite questions that I didn't think were answered, but I can't ask him from the floor. I have some concerns, and it's not Dennis's job performance. It's some specifics on the contract. And I'm also remembering that, yes, he's a good administrator. I wouldn't want his job, but I remember when the septic plant wasn't making money, you hired K. Ross Childs to do what you told him to do in 90 days. Do you remember that? And you paid K. Ross Childs as a consultant. So we were paying Dennis for doing his job, which he didn't do. He got a slap on the wrist, and you brought somebody else in to do his job. Look at the total picture. Yes, he's not a perfect person, and I'm not here to say he is, but he's a good administrator. And if you're underpaying him, you're doing him an injustice by not getting more information. Thank you.
Anyone else? We'll close public comment and get your calendars out. You got anybody got anything they want to add or subtract from next month's calendar?
Mr. Chairman, the land bank meeting, which is normally, well, actually isn't on the calendar at all, has been moved from the 17th to the 24th next month, as Treasurer Rokas will be out of town, and that will be the finalization of properties that we may ask to take into the land bank before they go to the public auction.
You know what time it is?
8 o'clock in the morning.
How come I don't see it? 17. Okay. Here? Is it here, Sonny?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it's in the committee room.
Okay. Anyone else? If not,
Dick,
Motion to
I'll
adjourn.
entertain it.
that 8 AM on the 2% committee,
Yeah.
did you mention that to everybody?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. The 2% committee, which is the tribal grants, that committee will meet on the 8th at 8 AM, and I believe it's in this room.
Who's on that committee?
I'm sorry, I don't remember offhand. I'll make sure Katie sends you a notice of it, who agreed to do that. But I think you're one of them.
What?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that's the committee, we had 3 and we needed a 4th, and everybody looked at you.
He's the chairman.
I'll check, and I'll get that out to you tomorrow from Katie.
Okay. I'll be in Friday.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we adjourn.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All in favor of the motion?
Yahoo.
We gone.
Thank you.
Well, we didn't set any records.
We were down pretty good.
You need your copy of